Good morning to all of you and welcome to the English program. I am Dr.Radhika and until recently I was teaching at Fatima College, Kollam. Today I am planning to do 3 segments with you. The first one will be active and passive voices as is displayed on the screen. Time permitting, I will also be doing concord with you. Concord is basically subject verb agreement. Alright. And again, time permitting, I will be doing reported speech. Perhaps you know it as indirect speech, direct to indirect. Alright. So, first of all, let me wish you all the very best in your exams. May you notch a very creditable victory. Okay. And I look forward to your very committed interaction with me. Please feel free all the time. You can interrupt me anytime you wish to ask doubts or get any kind of doubts cleared. Alright. Alright. So, active and passive voice, this is something that you already know, right? And this is something that you use all the time. So, at first, I am not going to give you any kind of a description or definition or anything. I am just going to make you comfortable with active and passive voice under the assumption that you know what it is. So, it's a kind of a I am just standing in for Dr. Gangadharan Nair who I am told has taken all the tenses with you. So, even if you are not quite so firm on tenses, it does not matter because I have a kind of a recap, small capsule for you. So, things should be easy. One of the first things that you should, this is just a recap, alright. Things that you have already learnt in your school and college days, just be aware of the different forms of be. Okay. Be is a very important verb as an auxiliary. I am bothered about auxiliary. Auxiliary means helping verb, alright. So, be as a helping verb has 8 forms. You certainly have studied all that at school. So, this is just recap for you. Is, am, are the present tense forms, okay. Was, were are the past tense forms. Just keep this in mind. And then there is the infinitival form. Infinitive means root form, R-O-O-T, root form. A form which is the origin or the base, which does not undergo any, or which undergoes change, but sometimes we use it in the root form. Alright, so that is the infinitival form. And then you have the progressive or the continuous, which is the ing form that you have already learnt. Yes. Then of course, there is the last one, the perfect, B-E-E-N, bin, alright. So, there are these 8 forms, is, am, are, the present, was, were, past. Then you have be, the infinitival form, being, B-E-I-N-G is the continuous and bin is the perfect. Just keep this in mind, alright, because things will get sorted out as we progress. Another point that you may perhaps want to remember is the different forms of have, has and had. Have and has are the present tense forms and had is the past tense form. So, we are going to use all these verbs not as primary verbs, okay, not as main verbs, but we are going to use them as auxiliary verbs. That is where their importance lies when we do active to passive, right. Just keep all this in mind. But if you think I am going faster, because I am assuming that you have already taken the earlier classes, if I am going faster than you are comfortable with, you can stop me, right, and ask questions. So, she constructed a bridge, right. Now, you know how to convert it into passive form. This is an active form because the focus is on she. Aval oru palam nirmichu. So, when you want to focus your attention on the doer, she, it is she constructs the bridge or she constructed a bridge. So, that is the active form, alright. Now, you know what the passive form is? A bridge? Wonderful. A bridge was constructed by her. Avalal oru palam nirmikkapettu. Alright. So, that is how you put it in Malayalam. Now, obviously, you can see that the passive is, shall we say, rather tame. It is not as powerful. It does not have the punch of active. So, in your day-to-day interaction, in your conversations, just keep this in mind. Try as far as possible to use the active. Now, this, as far as I can see, is the biggest advantage of knowing the rules. Not that you are going to keep all these rules in mind and then do the active passive conversion or the opposite. It's just that if you have all these things in mind, you can catch yourself before you make a mistake. And having mastered all the rules, you have the greatest freedom of all, you can break them. Because no rule, as far as they don't harm anyone, no rule is unbreakable. So, if you feel these rules are too constricting, you can always break them, but before we break, we have to master the rules. So, I am just going to, shall we say, remind you of some of the rules that you have already learnt. So, suppose I give you this next sentence, he is cooking biryani for lunch. Biryani? Biryani is wonderful. Biryani is being cooked. Yeah. In fact, we don't need by him at all, because the focus now is on biryani and that it is being cooked. So, now you know your priorities. If you want to focus on the doer of the action, you choose the active. But if you want to focus on the action, all right, or the end product, you choose the passive. But as far as possible, try to avoid using passive. But does passive form have its uses? Of course, passive form has its uses, but we will come to it by and by. So, biryani is being cooked by him for lunch. The reason why I put it within parentheses or brackets is just to show that it is insignificant. The same goes with by her in the previous sentence. Is it clear? All right. Suppose I give you this sentence. ISRO will send Vyomitra to space by late 2020. Vyomitra will be sent to space by ISRO by late 2020. So, you see, you obviously know how to convert active into passive. So, what is my purpose behind taking this class? Okay, just to remind you that there are certain rules that actually cover this area of grammar. All right. So, once you know the rules, you will never ever make a mistake. Well, I might be actually training you to take the examinations, but I have a larger picture in mind, that is to improve your performance both at the written plane and the spoken. So, keep all these things in mind even as you practice English in written form as well as the spoken. So, this is how active passive works. So, then there are these small technical details that you will perhaps want to know. Suppose I give you the sentence, the monkey ate a banana. So, how do you identify the subject? First, you identify the verb. Verb is an action word, something which conveys an action or a state of being. I am a teacher. There is no action there in that verb am. It just gives you the condition, the state of being that I am in. That is my profession. I am a teacher. But here, of course, we are bothered about certain action words which show energetic action. So, the monkey ate a banana, we identify a verb. So, we ask the question who ate, and we get an answer, it is a monkey. And so, the monkey is the doer of the action, and therefore, the monkey is the subject of the sentence. So, the subject of a sentence is the doer of the action. So, we know that. All right. Now, the question is, how do we identify the object? So, we run the subject and the verb together. The subject is the monkey, then we have the verb, we run the two together, the monkey ate, and then we ask a very significant question, the monkey ate what? We get a proper sensible answer, and that is a banana. So, that is the object. So, that is how we identify an object. So, this is called a direct object. You ask the question what to a verb after running the subject and the verb together. If you get a sensible answer, and that answer becomes the direct object. So, this is how we go about identifying the subject and the object. Simple, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Now, we need to know the different types of verbs. All right. The logic of it will come by and by. I shall introduce you to a couple of transitive verbs. Transitive means to pass over, okay, to move, to show the effect of the action moving from the subject to the object. So, that is a transitive verb. So, how do you identify a transitive verb? I have a sentence for you, I drove a car. So, we can identify the verb first, drove. So, who drove? I drove. So, what is that I? Subject of the sentence. So, then you ask the very important question, you put the subject and the verb together and you ask the question? Yes. So, I drove what? I drove a car. So, what is a car? Direct object. So, you ask the question what to a verb, right? You get a sensible answer and that is called a direct object. So, the answer to the question what gives you the direct object. So, if there is only one object in a sentence, that transitive verb is called a monotransitive verb. Just keep that in mind, your young brains, and you can retain all these bits of data. All right? Not that you're ever going to remember this monotransitive, ditransitive and all that when you actually talk, but it helps to keep all these things stacked neatly in your brain. All right? So, a monotransitive verb is a transitive verb which has one object, that is the direct object. Right? We have not exploited the full potential of verbs yet. So, we have another kind of a transitive verb. You have the nation gives Padma awards to 7 Keralites, which was in the newspapers a couple of days back. All right. So, we identify the verb gave or gives in this sentence, gives, that is a verb. Who gives? The nation. So, what is the nation? The subject. All right. We take the subject and the verb together and we ask the question, what? The answer is Padma awards. So, what is Padma awards? Direct object. So, looks like the verb is a monotransitive verb because it has given us a direct object. Okay, but that is not the end of the story yet. So, Padma awards is the direct object. Now, we ask the second important question, the nation gives Padma awards to whom? So, that is the second question that you ask to the verb. To whom? 7 Keralites. So, that is the indirect object. So, here you have a sentence which has a direct object and an indirect object, in effect 2 objects. So, obviously, it can't be a monotransitive verb, it is a ditransitive verb. Right? So, that is a ditransitive verb. Now, just to help you with more of nomenclature, we have another kind of a transitive verb. Look at this sentence. I shall give you my watch for your bracelet. You have a bracelet and I have a watch, let us swap. Okay, let us exchange that. So, in this sentence again obviously the verb is give. Okay. Who shall give? I is the subject, and I shall give what? My watch. So, what is my watch? Direct object. Yes, you are very clear on this now. Fine. I shall give my watch. What is the next question that we ask? To whom? So, I shall give my watch to whom? You. So, what is you? Indirect object. So, it looks like this verb is a ditransitive verb. Okay. You is the indirect object. You can ask another question. I shall give you my watch for what? For your bracelet, which is the third object. All right. It comes in the form of a phrase, a prepositional phrase, because you have the preposition called for, but that is not so very important. The fact of the matter is that now this verb has taken 3 objects and therefore, it is a tritransitive verb. All right. So, we have, so now you know what a transitive verb is, you know what a monotransitive verb is, you know what a ditransitive verb is, you know what a tritransitive verb is. Now, I shall take you to another kind of a verb, the intransitive verb. Can you imagine what an intransitive verb is? Intransitive, obviously from the very structure of the word you will recognize is the opposite of transitive. So, what is the signature quality of a transitive verb? How do you identify a transitive verb? It takes a, at the most minimal level, it takes a direct object. So, what could be an intransitive verb? It does not take an object at all. All right. So, look at the sentence. I slept. Huh? So, you identify the verb slept Who slept? I. Okay. So, what is I? Subject. So, then we ask the next important question. You run the subject and the verb together and you ask? You ask? What? I slept what? Do we have an answer? No. We do not have an answer. So, this is called an intransitive verb. An intransitive verb is a verb that does not take any object. Clear? All right. Now, I will take you to another one. This is getting too technical for you. Let us go into this. She walks in the mornings. Verb? Walks. Who walks? She walks. She walks what? She walks what? No decent answer, no proper answer, no grammatically viable answer. So, there is no direct object and therefore, this verb is an intransitive verb in this particular sentence, or rather it has been used intransitively in this sentence, right. But that does not exhaust the possibility of that verb. Suppose I rephrase the sentence and make it, she walks her dogs in the mornings. Naigale nadthan kondonu. Alright. So, subject is she, verb is walks, she walks what? Her dogs. Alright. So, we get a proper answer. So, her dogs is direct object. So, what happens to this verb? It is the same verb. It is the same verb, walks, all right, but it has morphed, it has changed from its intransitive barrenness, so to say, to become a very fertile transitive verb. So, it has been used transitively in this sentence. So, there are verbs in English which, according to the manner in which you cast a sentence, can work either transitively or intransitively. So, you call it actually an ambitransitive verb. You are actually familiar with at least half of this word. Most of us are good right hand users. We use our right hand with a lot of skill, but some of us can use the left hand too, right. Such people are called ambidextrous, people who can dexterously use both hands. They are called ambidextrous people. In a similar fashion, or by the same analogy, there are verbs that can be used intransitively, and those same verbs can be used transitively as well. They are called ambitransitive verbs. Clear? Let me give you another example. Butter melts. By now, I have to take you through those shall we say juvenile, childish questions, but by the very structure you would have identified that it is a what kind of a verb? Transitive or intransitive? Intransitive, obviously, because you have already asked the question, butter melts what? And did you get an answer? You didn't. So, there is no object, and therefore, this verb melts in this particular sentence has been used intransitively, right. But I am going to use the same verb in the next sentence. Please melt some butter. So, what is the verb there? Melt. What is the subject in that sentence? Pardon? What is the subject in that sentence? No subject. You cannot say such a thing, because if there is action, there has to be a subject. And what is a subject? That is why I told you very early on that a subject is the doer of an action. So, can you imagine any sentence without a doer when you have a verb? Can you imagine a sentence without a subject? No. So, your answer should have been the subject is invisible, right, but the subject is, suppose I say please melt some butter, whom am I addressing? Whom am I addressing? You. So, the you is there, let us say within brackets, it is almost invisible. You please melt some butter, that is the request. So, in requests and commands we generally do away with the person address, which is you. It is just taken for granted, you understand. So, there is indeed a subject there. But we ask the same routine question, please melt what, and the answer is some butter, and some butter is the direct object. So, and that is an instance of ambitransitive verb. Is that clear? So, now you are very, very clear, I imagine, about what a transitive verb is, right? You know what a monotransitive verb is? You ask the question what to a verb, and if you get a decent answer, you get the direct object, and therefore the verb is a monotransitive. You ask in addition to what, you ask the question to whom, and you get again a decent answer, which is the indirect object. So, it becomes a ditransitive. Then of course, you have the tritransitive, right, which takes a third. But tritransitive is not something that I am going to take you into, because I do not want to complicate things. I just want you to be very comfortable with English so that you do not make any mistakes. So, then there is the intransitive verb, which takes no object at all. So, it does not give answers to what and to whom, and then you have the ambitransitive verbs as well. All right. So, remember, our focus is active voice to passive voice. So, one of the first things you ought to remember is that only transitive verbs can be converted from active voice to passive voice. Intransitive verbs do not have the passive form at all. All right. I am told that you will be taking objective type questions. Yes. So, you will be given a set of answers, and you will have to pick the right answer. And time is of the essence when you take your examination, isn't it? You have no time to waste. So, the advantage about knowing these rules is that you will be able to pick the correct answer very, very quickly, because the answers will look almost similar. The trick is to identify the correct answer very, very quickly. So, if you know these rules, it can be done in a jiffy. So, please remember these things. For instance, if I were your examiner, I would perhaps give you a passive, an intransitive verb in a sentence. I would give you an intransitive sentence, all right, and then I would ask you to make the passive. So, if you know this rule, you will automatically tell me there is no passive form at all. Will you waste your time? Will you rack your brains trying to find out what the answer is? No. So, immediately you will go into none of these. If that is the last option, you will immediately tick none of these. I may give you convoluted answers, the first three answers to a sentence in using intransitive verb, asking you to convert it from into the passive. So, you know the method now. So, only transitive verbs can be converted from active to passive. So, what are the other rules? As I told you, you know everything. I am just going to underscore the importance of two rules in this. So, I am going to take the same old sentence, I drove a car. We know it is a transitive verb, drove. So, the first rule is transpose the subject and the object. You have done it already. You transpose it, meaning you interchange them, you swap their positions, all right. So, you have already done that. A car comes to the front and I go to the end of the sentence. The next rule obviously is you add by to the doer of the action. The doer of the action continues to be I, all right. It is just that you put by before I. So, automatically I becomes me, you know that. Now, identify the main verb and its tense. What is a, there is no main verb, there is just a verb in the sentence. What is the verb in the sentence? Drove. What about its tense? Past tense. So, identify the verb, identify the tense. So, that is in the simple past. Change the main verb to its past participle form. What is the past participle form of drove? Pardon? Driven. Maybe in your schools and your early college you learnt it as V3, V1, V2, V3, or some of you have learnt it as present, past and participle, or some of you have not learnt these rules at all, but that does not matter at all. You just select the third one. Drive, drove, driven. Sleep, slept, slept. Eat, ate, eaten. So, when you convert from active voice to passive, remember that the main verb will always be that third form. All right. Now, the trickiest part actually speaking is this. So, drove has been shifted there. you change it to driven. The trickiest part is to insert the appropriate tense form of be. That was the reason why I introduced you once again to the how many types of be? 8 forms. Just to recap, is, am, are the present tense forms. Is, am, are the present tense forms. The past tense, yeah, was and were. Infinitival, be. Continuous or progressive is being, B-E-I-N-G, and the perfect form is B-E-E-N. Now, this is where you have to put those rules into practice. Now, I wouldn't ever advise you to keep all these rules and then do the conversion, all right. I've always told my children, my students for the past 2.5 decades, you just convert an active sentence into the passive, go by your gut feeling. There is something inside you, some linguistic sense inside you, which makes you automatically convert active voice into passive. All that you need to do is check whether your passive form agrees with the active, and precisely for that you need to know the rule, right? And for that, these last 2 rules, the 4th and the 5th rules, are significant. So, the main verb is always converted into its past participle form, right? And the helping verb is always an appropriate form of be. Just ask yourself what the tense of that sentence is in the active voice and ensure that the be form mimics that same tense. So, what is the tense in drove? Simple past. So, your passive form will be the past tense form of be. Appropriate past tense form, appropriate meaning depending on the number, grammatical number, singular or plural. So, will it be a car were driven by me? No, it can be only was. A car was driven by me. So, ideally what would you do? If I gave you this active voice sentence, I drove a car, you would automatically convert it into a car was driven by me, all right. But I would suggest that after you do the conversion or after you identify the correct answer, just check whether the tense of the active matches with the tense of the passive. All you need to do is check the helping verb, the be form. The be form should be an exact mimic of the tense in the active. That's all that you need to do, all right. So, your answer will be perfect, will be correct. So, there is no question of feeling uncomfortable or asking yourself, did I get it right, did I get it wrong? You know that you have written the right answer, you have chosen the right answer. Is it clear? Yeah. So, just in case you have any doubts regarding what the past participle form is, if it is drive, the last form driven, eat, ate, eaten, sleep, slept, slept, rise, rose, risen, walk, walked, walked, speak, spoke, spoken. So, we are choosing the last one all the time when we convert from active to passive. Remember that. All right, this is just a kind of a recap once again. Notice that there is a change, there is a vital change in the main verb. So, I am going to take you, it is always a past participle form. I am going to take you through the sentences that we have already done, sentences for which you gave me the correct passive forms, all right. She builds a bridge, the verb is builds, all right, and has become built, past participle form. Now, if the verb is eating, the verb is eat, it has become eaten, right. Isro will send, send will become sent. So, in all these examples, in all sentences, when you convert from active to passive, it is always that third form. I am talking about the main verb, all right. Now, when it comes to the auxiliary verb or the helping verb, you will notice that it will retain the same tense, okay. Tense indicates time, yes. So, the auxiliary verb or the helping verb always indicates the tense. So, she builds a bridge is in the present. Just notice the auxiliary verb there is, and what is? The present tense form of be, which agrees with she. Is agrees with she. Suppose I had said they built a bridge or they build bridges, or she builds bridges. Suppose I had said bridges. Bridges are built. Okay, is, am, are the present tense forms. When I said appropriate, you will have to think about the grammatical number. Again, you don't have to ask yourself what about the number, is it singular, plural. Just go by your gut feeling, go by your instinct, and just ensure that everything is shipshape. Just remember these rules. All right. Look at the next one. Again, this is a sentence that we have done together. He is eating biryani for lunch. What is the tense? Is eating. Is present. Eating, ing is progressive. Yeah, continuous. So that is present continuous. Just check out your passive tense form, passive voice form. Biryani is being. All right. So the auxiliary always mimics the tense of the verb in the active. Clear? All right. Look at the next one. Isro will send. Send is infinitival. Will already indicates that the action is going to take place in the future. All right. So send is in the infinitive. So Vyomitra will be sent. Did you get the logic? Did you get the logic? Is it very clear? Yes. So you won't make mistakes? No. So it's just a case of remembering those rules about converting the verb into the past participle, the third form, okay, and ensuring that the auxiliary verbs, the helping verbs, retain the same tense as the tense in the active voice. Is it clear? Right. Now, one small thing that you have to remember, we have the ditransitive verb. What is a ditransitive verb? It has an indirect object alongside the direct. Okay. She gave me a watch. Which was the indirect object there? She gave what? A watch. So what is that? Direct object. She gave a watch to whom? Me. So which is the indirect object? So in this is a ditransitive verb. You agree? It has a direct object and an indirect object. What is the difference? The most fundamental difference that you see between the direct object and the indirect object there? What is the fundamental difference? The direct object is an inanimate thing. Yes? Whereas the indirect object is, you use the word object as a grammatical label, that is all. But indirect object here is an animate thing, living being. Okay. So between the two, which would you consider important, the inanimate or the animate? Largely speaking, the animate, the living. Okay. So the indirect object should be put in the beginning of the sentence. Just remember this rule. Okay. Not that the other is wrong. So I have two options for you. You can either have it as I was given a watch by her, or a watch was given to me by her. Both answers are correct. I can't mark you wrong for the second answer. I can't mark you wrong, but I would prefer that you spoke the first. That is where rules are important. So you know how to speak perfect English. Just retain these small nuggets in your mind. Right? So when you're confident about your rules, you become confident as a speaker. You can write with great confidence as well. All right. As I told you earlier, nothing wrong with that second sentence. But the first one is preferred. It's just a question of preference. Clear? Okay, just again as a kind of a recap, is, am, are the present tense forms of be, was, were the past tense forms, be is the infinitival form, being is the progressive or the continuous, been is the perfect, and then also keep in mind have, has and had. You know why? Because I am going to take you through all the tense forms of a sentence and just take you through the passive forms as well. All right. So you remember the tense forms that I'm so sorry that there are only two of you who attended Dr. Gangadharan Nayak sir's class, but I'm sure you would have done your bit of grammar at school and early college as well. So we talk about 12 forms of a verb, don't we? Yes. So we have the simple present. We'll remember it in this order, won't we? Yes. We have the simple present. We have the present continuous, the present perfect, the present perfect continuous. We retain the same order with the past and the future as well. Okay, so we have the simple past, past continuous, past perfect continuous. Simple future, future continuous, future perfect continuous. Nothing sacrosanct about this particular order or hierarchy, but if you remember this order, things become easier to recall. All right, and just keep this in mind as well, the 8 forms of be as an auxiliary and the 3 forms of have. Clear? So, active to passive, I am going to first introduce you to the present. I drive a car, right? What is your passive answer? Just do it by your gut feeling, don't think about the rules, all right? And then cross check whether you've got your sentence right. So, tell in your mind, or you can give me straight away the answer, what the answer is, and you can check for yourself, because I've already given you that the tense is present, you know it already. So, your answer is a car, pardon? A car is driven. Why? Because the verb I drive a car is present. So, obviously, the form of be has to be present. Those of you who got it wrong for the first time, don't be upset. Okay, it's just a question of cross matching. Clear? So, this is simple present for you. What will be the next? If it's going to be present continuous, I, what will be your sentence? I am driving a car. Look at the very structure of that sentence. Am is what? What tense is am? Is am are? What tense is am? Present. Driving, ing, continuous. So, the very sentence, the very structure of the verb exposes its tense. All right. So, it is I am driving is present continuous. Remember to check whether your passive form also has present continuous. So, what is your answer? A car? Wonderful. A car is being driven by me. So, drive is always driven. Drive is always driven, all right. Your auxiliary keeps changing, and your auxiliary agrees with the subject, okay, and it will retain the same tense. So, look at the auxiliary is being. Is what? Present tense form. Being, ing is the continuous form. Doesn't it agree with the tense of the active voice? Yes or no? Yes. You got it right when you said that without thinking about the rules, didn't you? You just needed to cross check. Okay. What will be the next tense form? Simple present, present continuous. What will be the next? Present perfect. And what will be your sentence? I have driven. What is have? Present tense form. If I had put the past tense form, have would have become had. All right. Okay. So, I have driven a car is present perfect. All right. So, what will be your passive form? A car has been, yes, a car has been driven by me. What is has? What tense form? Has. Have, has is what tense form? Present. Been, en, perfect. Okay. So, has been, does it agree with the verb of have driven? Yes or no? Yes. Earlier, would you do this kind of checking with the rules? So, it was just a blind man's buff. But now you are more confident, aren't you? You can do the, the tweaking. If you have gone wrong by your gut feeling, just recall these rules and then you can convert it. You have got your answer right. Okay. What about the next tense form then? We have done simple present, present continuous, present perfect. The next should be present perfect continuous, and so your sentence should be with the same subject, with the same verb and the same object. I have been driving a car. What does have? Present. Been? Perfect. Driving, ing. So, you see from the verb structure that it is cast in the present perfect continuous form. Clear? So, what will be your passive? Go by your gut feeling, don't go by the rules. May I have a sip of water as you Rack your brains. What is the answer? Pardon? A car has been. You have followed all the grammatical rules, but English does not permit such a structure. Okay, so with absolute confidence, you should be telling me? Yes. No passive form. So that is also an option. Why didn't you think of it? Why were you driving yourself into creating a sentence which looks very mutilated and not permitted by the existing structures of English language? Okay, didn't your gut feeling tell you, hey, does it have a passive? Didn't you have that doubt in your mind? Yes or no? You had? Say yes. Why did it get translated into this answer, no passive form? So just pick up some courage, all right. But that doesn't mean, you do a little bit of thinking and immediately erupt with no passive form. I mean, that is an option, but don't use it in an indiscriminate fashion, all right. So we have done all the 4 forms of the present. Let's go to the past. Yes. So what will your next sentence be? Something that we already did. I drove a car. So that's a simple past. Your answer is a car was driven by me. And is your answer correct? A car was driven by me. Is your answer correct or wrong? You tell me whether your answer is correct. Why should you require my help to, why should you need any assurance from me that it is right? Or why should it require any chastisement from me that it is wrong? Are you right or wrong? Why? Why are you right? A car was driven by me. You're right. You're right. But why are you right? Because you've converted drive into driven. Okay. Part 1 is right. I drove a car, what tense? Past. And what is the past form of your passive? Was. So are you right or wrong? You're right. A car was driven by me. Your next sentence will use the next tense, and that is past. Past. Continuous. And your sentence will be I was driving a car. Was is past, driving ing is the continuous form. So, past continuous, and your passive form will be a car was being driven by me. Are you right? Indeed you are. You don't need my sanction. You know that you're right. Yes? What did you do? You applied that 5th rule. You just remembered it. You just recalled it before you uttered the correct answer. Clear? Right. What's the next tense? Past? Perfect. So what will your sentence be? I had driven a car. I had driven, had is past, driven en, past form. Okay. I had driven a car. Your passive sentence will be a car had been driven by me. Drive has become driven. Had been. What is had? Past. Been. Perfect. Your answer is correct. A car had been driven by me. Your success rate is jumping like anything now, isn't it? Just because you're applying that? Yeah. So you know that you can follow your gut feeling now. What's the next tense form? Past. Perfect. Continuous. What will be the sentence? I had been driving. Past. Perfect. Continuous. Clear? What will be your answer? Yeah? Is that a cheeky answer or is it a considered answer? Did you first go for your gut feeling and then cross checked with your rule? Tell me honestly, hand upon heart. What? Both gut feeling and rule. No passive form. Good. No passive form. So past perfect continuous does not have a passive form. So look at that. When you get your questions, all right, you look at the sentence. If it contains an intransitive verb, you automatically know there is no passive form. Immediately you you block that answer, none of these, isn't it? Yes, things are so easier, you are saving on time. So past perfect continuous does not have a passive form. Alright, now this is the future. Now traditional grammar will tell you that there are 3 tenses in English. Traditional grammar will tell you that there are 3 tenses in English. Modern grammar will tell you that that is wrong, or maybe we should not accept that. We have only 2 tenses in English. Okay. Modern grammar tells us that, and that has more logic. Why so? Why so? Because when you take any verb, take Malayalam for instance, പഠിക്കുക, that is a root form, പഠിക്കുക. ഇന്നലെ ഞാൻ പഠിച്ചു, ഇന്ന് ഞാൻ പഠിക്കുന്നു, പഠിക്കുന്നു. I mean if you are talking about the current situation, ഇന്ന് ഞാൻ പഠിക്കുന്നു, നാളെ ഞാൻ പഠിക്കും. 3 different forms ആയില്ലേ? ആ infinitival formula you have injected the ingredient called time, okay, and that verb has changed, it has morphed, it has changed its structure. So പഠിക്കുക became പഠിച്ചു, പഠിക്കുന്നു, പഠിക്കും, and different other forms depending on the exact component of time that you inject into it. But look at English. Study, infinitival form. Yesterday I studied. So study has become studied. Today I study. Today I study, or I am studying, whatever. So that's the present tense form. Tomorrow I will study. Study lu valla change vannittundo? Illa. We have just included will. That is all. So we don't actually talk about, I mean just keep that in your mind. Alright, that's why I keep telling you, if you noticed actually, there are 12 forms of a verb I said. I didn't say 12 tense forms. There are just 12 forms of a verb. How many tenses we would talk about? Coming to the, of course, yeah. Alright. So now we are talking about the future forms. Alright. Future forms. So the first one, we are going by the same kind of a hierarchy. So the first one will be simple future. So I will drive a car. Now go by your gut feeling and tell me what the passive form is. A car will be driven by me. And are you right? Indeed you are. Why? Will drive, will automatically conveys that it's going to take place in the future. Drive is infinitival. She ആക്കിക്കോളൂ, she ആണെങ്കിലും drive തന്നെയാണ്. They ആണെങ്കിലോ, they will drive. She will drive, I will drive, he will drive, they will drive. Drive ന് വല്ല വ്യത്യാസം ഉണ്ടോ? ഇല്ല. Infinitival form. Therefore, look at the passive form. What is the infinitival form there that you have used of the auxiliary? Be. Will we have retained just like that because it shows an action to take place in the future, and you have retained be, the infinitive form. Clear? Yes? So you knew the answer, but now you are doubly sure that your answer is right. Okay. Now, so this is simple future. What about the next tense? What will that be? Not tense, next form, sorry. Future continuous. So your sentence will be, I will be driving a car. So that's the continuous form. I will be driving a car. And what will be the passive form? What will be the passive form? Suffering a roadblock? What's your answer? No passive form. No passive form. Again, a considered reply, kid? Is it a considered reply or just like that? Considered. Good. So, future continuous form does not have a passive form. So, when you read a sentence in future continuous, immediately you know that it doesn't have a passive. Why do you want to rack your brains and try to find out what the answer is, and then eventually after 5 minutes come to the conclusion that there is no passive form and then go to block that answer. What is the next tense form? Future? Yeah, next form. I will have driven a car. Future perfect, and your answer will be a car. A car. Now I'm not saying whether you're right or wrong, I'm just amplifying your answer. Okay, I'm not saying anything at all, no judgments at all. Come on, a car will have been or being? B-E-E-N. A car will have been driven. You think you're right? You think you're right? Absolutely? Indeed. Correct answer. A car will have been driven by me. Doesn't this configuration of auxiliary verbs, doesn't it mimic the tense of the active? Future perfect? Yes or no? Yes. So, this is the which form? No, this is the active form, kid. I am trying to help you with converting from active to passive. Yeah. What is the form? Verb form? Future perfect continuous. Good. Future perfect continuous. And what is the passive structure? What is the passive structure? No passive. Sure? Good. If you're sure that there is no passive structure, indeed you're right. There is no passive structure. Now, did you notice a kind of a pattern in this no passive form that you've been giving me? This answer that you've been giving me, is there a kind of a structure? Just to help you so that we don't waste too much of your time, 3 hours of solid work. Okay? So, there are no passive forms as we noticed for intransitive verbs. So, the minute you notice an intransitive verb, automatically your mind tells you no passive form. So, don't ever go into this exercise of converting an active form into a passive. All right? So, with intransitive verbs, no passive form at all. Now, when the verb is in the transitive at all, there are no passive forms for present perfect continuous, for past perfect continuous, for future continuous and future perfect continuous. And this is why I said perhaps we should remember the forms, the verb forms in this particular order. Present, that is simple present, present continuous, present perfect continuous. You follow the same order with the past as well. Simple past, past continuous, past perfect continuous. Now, to make life simpler for you, I have made out a checklist, all right, of the forms, the verb forms that will not permit passive structures. Simple present, does it have a passive structure? Yes, tick. Present continuous? Yes. Present perfect? Yes, indeed. Present perfect continuous? No. So, the fourth form in the present hierarchy will not have the passive. Simple past? Yes. Past continuous? Yes. Past perfect? Yes. Past perfect continuous? No. So, the fourth one in the past does not have passive form. Things are getting clearer now? Fine. Simple future? Yes. Future continuous? No. Future perfect? Yes. Future perfect continuous? Now, do you see a pattern? Yes. The fourth one in the present, the fourth one in the past, the second and the fourth in the future. Isn't it easier to remember now? Yes. This far I have taken you through simple sentences, all right, where we had just one subject and one verb. Don't worry, I can already see longish faces, eyes dropping, bored expressions. I won't take you through too many complex sentences, just so that I complete my part of the job. I'll just take you through 2 or 3 sentences of complex sentences. All right. Now, look at this sentence. I hope the selectors will include Sanju Samson in the Indian cricket team, so that you don't waste your time racking your brains. Not that I underestimate your intelligence, but just to make things simpler, you have noticed that there are two clauses, right? One clause dependent on the other, so that's why it's a complex sentence, but we'll forget all those technical details. There are two verbs in the sentence. Yes? One of the first things that you should have checked out was whether it is a transitive verb or an intransitive, because otherwise it's not worth your time, your energy and your intelligence. So, I hope what? That the selectors will include Sanju Samson in the Indian cricket team. That's the entire clause is the object. Okay. Now, within that object you have another verb, will include. Okay. Selectors will include what? So, you have a direct object there. Yes. So, once you have cross checked with the verbs, you have identified that they are transitive, we set out to convert that into the passive tense form. As I told you earlier, always prefer the active voice when you speak and when you write. Passive form you can reserve largely for two reasons. I said earlier that I would tell you what uses you can put passive voice to. Now that you are more or less very clear about what active voice and what passive voice sentences look like, let me tell you that passive voice structure obviously takes more words than the active. Yes or no? It takes more words. So, precisely for that reason it becomes rather loose in structure. It does not have that kind of a formal tightness, that structural integrity of the active voice. So, it becomes loose, right. So, when you have to say something with effect, with punch, right, with emphasis, what would you choose? The active or the passive? Active. The active. That is why you have all these orders and commands using the minimum number of words. Suppose you make a ruckus, you make a lot of noise, I just need to use one sentence, silence I need to say. Will I ever say silence may please be maintained? By the time I enunciated, you would have hardly listened to me and you wouldn't have understood the feelings that are going through in my mind. Yes? So, active voice is the preferred form. Passive voice makes the sentence rather lengthy and therefore rather loose, and it loses the punch, alright. So, prefer the active, but passive has its uses. Sometimes we may have to communicate certain negative messages. Nobody likes to listen to negative messages, generally speaking, alright, because it injures, it's spiky, it is pointed. So, the best way to blunt that pointed nature of that instruction or that command, you convert it into the passive. Which would you prefer, for instance, if you were totally unhygienic or you'd never had any civic sense and you spat here and there and everywhere? Okay, Indians പൊതുവേ. Which would you prefer? Don't spit. Okay, in which case, where is the subject? Do we have a subject in that sentence? Of course we do. Which is the subject? You. So, I am pointedly looking at you, it is almost as if I am pointing my finger at you and I am telling you, you don't spit. Maybe 3/4 of you have a very good robust civic sense and you don't spit at all. Won't you feel bad? Yes or no? Yes, bad that I provoked you, bad that I made such a judgment against you, such a negative judgment against you. Suppose I say spitting is forbidden. Spitting here is forbidden. Which is better, don't spit or spitting is forbidden? Spitting is forbidden. Now, that is the advantage of the passive. It blunts the edge, the pointy, the hurting nature of the active. So, that is one use you can put the passive to. When you have to convey, sometimes we are compelled to convey negative comments or negative orders, try then to convert it into the passive, because then you become a more effective communicator. Effective in the sense that you are not hurting the feelings of the person whom you address, right. That is the first major use of passive. The second is when the doer of the action is not very important. Okay. See, look at the first sentence that we started this class with, she constructed a bridge. Who is this she? Does it give us any extra inputs about she? Is there anything worth remembering about she? It could be just anyone. Yes. Now, is that worth taking over, carrying over into the passive? A bridge was constructed by her. Do we need that by her? No, because we don't know much about her. The sentence would be better off without by her. Now, why did I have by her in the beginning? Just to show you that this is the grammatical order in which you convert the active into the passive. Once you know that this is the structure, once you know that these are the rules, I told you, once you gain mastery over the rules, you can either bypass them or break them. Here you break them without making any grammatical mistakes. So, a bridge was constructed. So, when you don't know who the doer of the action is, or when the doer of the action is not important at all, because the focus or the emphasis is on the act or the product, okay, you choose the passive. So, does the passive form have its use? Indeed, it has. It is important, but it is important and it will have its punch only if it is used in the right context, and only if it is used with when it is a considered choice. അറിയാണ്ട് യൂസ് ചെയ്യരുത്, അറിഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് യൂസ് ചെയ്യണം. So, when you use the passive, do it with self consciousness. You have made that choice to use the passive rather than the active. Is that fine? All right. So, here you have this complex sentence, actually very, very simple. Would you like to hazard a guess as to what the answer would be? I hope എന്ത് ഫോമാണ്? ഷീ ആയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ എന്താവുമായിരുന്നു? ഷീ ഹോപ്സ്. ദേ ആയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ഹോപ്പ്. അപ്പോൾ what is the tense form there? Present. Okay, include what form? What form is it? Will already indicates the future. So, include will be simple future. I am talking about the structure of include. What is the structure? Yes? Pardon, I didn't get you. Be loud, please. As I told you earlier, there is no harm I can inflict on you. No, not plural. The infinitival form. Yes? Yeah, base form. Good. So, it is hoped. Look at that is. What is this? Present tense form of be. So, we hope is the present tense. So, it becomes it is hoped. It is hoped that Sanju Samson will be included. So, how do you legitimize the be? How do you legitimize the be? Why should it be be? Because it mimics include, infinitival form. Is it clear? You will get it slowly. I mean, since you got all the simple sentences right, it's just a matter of splitting this complex sentence into two simple sentences and just doing the conversion. And even otherwise, I don't imagine in your examination you will have to do the conversion, you just have to make the selection. Well then, why do I go into all these details? Because I am thinking not merely about the exams that you will be taking, I am also thinking about the conversational skills that you will be picking up, and you need to speak complex sentences as well, along with simple sentences. So, we are talking about general proficiency as well in learning grammar. All right, a similar looking sentence. They say America will witness Trump's impeachment. Who is this they? We don't know. We are talking about popular conception or popular belief or the popular hope. So, perhaps this sentence will look better in the passive, and therefore, it is said. It is said. It is said that, or it is said Trump's impeachment will be witnessed by America. Does this make sense now? This kind of conversion into passive, does it make sense? It does. All right. Now, I will just take you through different types of sentences, imperative sentences or commands. All right. Please empty the dustbin. So, when you have orders, the verb will always be look at the, what will be your passive form? What will be your passive form? Did you say this in your mind? Let the dustbin be empty. Did you say that in your mind? Why didn't you articulate it? And do you think this is the right answer? Yes? Yes. Let the dustbin be emptied. Empty has become emptied. Infinitive form is retained. Okay. Suppose I give you a sentence like this. Turn the page. Who is the doer or who is the supposed subject? You. Let the page be turned. Correct. Let the page be turned. Interrogative sentences or questions. Questions can be slightly tricky in the sense that you will have to think about the syntax as well, word order as well, but I am sure you know how it works. Did they use bombs to destroy the buildings? Which is the verb there? I have underlined something, but forget that. Which is the main verb there? Which is the subject? They. What is the action that they are involved in? Pardon? Think again. Did qualifies use or destroy? Use. Okay. So, what will be your answer? I underlined did in order to tell you that the tense we have used is past. Okay. So, did is an indicator of the past. So, automatically your answer should have been, or you have already run the answer through your mind, and it is this: were bombs used to destroy the building? Were bombs used? Use has become used. Use, used, used, the third form. Okay. So, what gave us the past tense of the auxiliary verb were? What indicated the tense of what made you choose were and not are? Did. Did gave us information about the time factor, and that is the past. All right. So, were bombs used to destroy the buildings? So, all you have to do is check, whether it contains the same, whether it retains the same tense form. All right. Look at the next one. Are you talking to me? Are talking. Okay. That is what tense? Present continuous. Look at the passive. What will be the passive? I am not going to give you the answer straight away. What will be the passive? You have to retain the present continuous. What will be the passive? Are you talking to me? Yes? Are you talking to me is present continuous. Your passive form has to be present continuous. Don't dabble in past. Am I being talked to? Am being. What is am? What is am? Present form of be. Present form of be. All right. Being, the continuous form. So, present continuous. Does it mimic the tense of the active voice? Yes or no? Yes. Am I being talked to? We generally don't speak like this, do we? That's the reason why you look so puzzled and so disgusted and horrified, and some of you look positively hostile. This gentleman is asking him, virtually asking me, why woman have you chosen this example? It's just to show you how clumsy passive voice sentences can be. We generally don't speak in passive voice structures, right? Will PV Sindhu win gold at the Olympics? We have used the infinitive form. What is the object there? Win what? Gold. Now, why didn't you give me the answer before I asked you that question? So, what will be a passive? What will be the form of win? One. Win, one, one. We are choosing the third form. All right. Yes. So, and you have already told me that the object is gold. So, will your answer be this? Will your answer be this? Will gold be won by PV Sindhu at the Olympics? Very clumsy structure, isn't it? Yes. But this is largely for the purpose of exercise. Okay. Passive structures in questions look extraordinarily clumsy. Try to avoid that. If your purpose behind asking questions is to elicit an answer, and we ask questions to elicit answers, isn't it? Try as far as possible not to choose the passive. Okay. Have you seen cakes being baked? Which is the verb there? The verb is see. See what? Cakes being baked. That is the verb. That is the object. Okay. Have you seen what? Cakes being baked. So that has become the object. What is the tense form there? Have seen? Present? Present perfect. Okay. So now you know the object, you know the tense form, and your passive sentence will be have cakes being baked been seen by you, purely for the purpose of giving you an exercise. All right. This has been converted into the passive form in the question. Is it clear? We are following all the rules, aren't we? Yes. It's just that we are more familiar with converting statements rather than questions. That's because we don't generally use passive forms in questions. That is perhaps the reason why you are slightly, shall we say, guarded. You are not giving me answers. Okay. Look at exclamative sentences or exclamations. Again, exclamations look extremely clumsy in passive, but nonetheless, just to tell you that these two have passive forms. How greedily he ate those cashews. So, ate will automatically become. So, your passive structure will be how greedily were those cashews eaten by him. Okay. So, the focus is on the greed that was exhibited while the consumption was being done. Him does not matter at all. I mean, not as important as the greed that was exhibited. Correct? That is the purpose of the passive structure in the sentence. Okay, suppose I ask you to convert this. Don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to me like that. It has punch, doesn't it? It has power. Yes? Don't talk to me like that. I will not be talked to like that. It has lost its vigor, hasn't it? I will not be talked to like that. But you can use it. Where would you use this? I will not be talked to like that. Where will you use this passive structure? Not that all passive structures have to be dumped and pushed into the dustbin. They have their uses. When would you use this sentence? I will not be talked to like that. If you are caught in a kind of a job hierarchy and you are talking to your boss, or in a traditional setting where you are talking to a teacher, in Indian culture the teacher is given a little bit of respect, isn't he or she? Yes? Yeah, but does that mean that I can abuse my, my position and fling insults at you? I can't. Suppose I fling insults at you, what will be your reaction? Typically your reaction would be to remain silent, typically. But that is when you have to remember the power of the passive. You won't tell me, don't talk to me like that. Of course, nothing preventing you from doing that, but it would be more decent, let us say, to give me respect for my relatively senior age, okay, and my position, so to say, as your instructor, and then still convey the message. I won't be talked to like that. You get the point? So, indirectly you are also conveying that you possess some element of decency even if I don't. So, you use the passive form. Got it? So, choose the passive form with care. What about this one? What will be the passive form? What a wonderful spectacle. I am not going to help you this time, you give me the passive form. What a wonderful spectacle. Why the solid silence? Maybe I should look to the green t-shirt boy to get the answer. What would be the answer? Were you raising your hand to give me the answer? No. No passive form. What a wonderful spectacle. It doesn't have a passive form. Okay, that was just a tricky one. If I were to set your question paper, I would put lots and lots of these things into them, just so that you will remember this till the kingdom come. Okay, are we through with the exclamation part then? Okay. Now I am going to give you some exercises. All right, we are done with active and passive. I will do these exercises with you and we will take a 10-minute break. Is that fine? You are already beginning to lose your patience, isn't it? Too much of active and passive. So, Nadal gave the ball girl a wristband. Did you see that? Yes. So, the ball went and hit that poor girl and that was his gesture. Now, remember that you are in an examination hall and you do not have time to waste. So, you will quickly remember the rules that you have done. Not that you are going to apply them straight away, but you know that there is a transposition of the subject and the object. So, you check virtually all the sentences seem to be okay in that sense. All the sentences have begun with the ball girl and they have ended with. Now, the verb is gave, all right. Gave should automatically become given. You check all the sentences, it is given. Yes. Now, see, automatically you need to check only the auxiliary verbs. So, what is the tense of the main verb in the active voice? Simple past. Check for the simple past in the passive and what is your answer? B. So, your answer is B. Did it take you much time? You just went by gut feeling, you cross checked with the tenses, looked for it and immediately got the answer. Yes? So, that is the advantage of keeping these rules in your mind. Okay, let me give you another sentence. She slept for an hour. Option A. Any other option? Is A the unanimous choice of the correct answer? Louder please. D or B? D. Yes, D for donkey, D. Yes, indeed. Why so? Why are you right? Louder. She slept what? Do we have an answer? No. See, obviously when you looked at the question, you should have immediately remembered it is intransitive. So, it does not have a. So, none of the above. You quickly come to the answer, do not you? Look at this one. This is just a conjectural sentence, okay. I am not sure he is going to make Sagara Kanyaga at all. I am just giving you a sentence. Kanai Kunjaraman is sculpting a new Sagara Kanyaga this year. Again check, a new Sagara Kanyaga is how the sentence begins. By Kanai Kunjaraman is how the sentence ends. Now, all you have to do is check the tense form. Is sculpting is what? Present continuous. Look at the auxiliary verbs in the passive voice sentences and your answer should be C. Yes, you come to it spot on, don't you? Yes, you do not have to waste time at all. So, the answer is C. Slightly longish sentence. Taxpayers of England will no longer support Prince Harry or Meghan Markle. Will support, just remember that and check, because all the sentences start with Prince Harry or Meghan Markle and then taxpayers of England. So, your answer will be A. Got it? Everyone got it right? Wonderful. Good. I think this is going to be my last one for this session of active passive. Won't the Tamil Nadu government ever ban Jallikattu? Okay. So, that is the infinitival. What will be your answer? D. Won't Jallikattu ever be banned by the Tamil Nadu government? Clear? Yes?